welcome back to the Cross That Mind podcast, guys. My name is V, the only one who ever truly matters, alongside...
It's your boy Big Rob, back again, a.k.a. Aegis Chestnut, a.k.a. Morris Alba. I'm just glad to be here, ladies and gentlemen. Just glad to be here.
Peace, man. I got him. You know what's going on for real. No camera, you feel me? But listen, my eyes are wide open because I got my father in the building today.
Oh, my God. So with that being said, today we have a special guest. He is known as Unplugged Christian on Instagram. His name is Rob. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Rob Kowalski. I don't have a fancy intro like Big Rob over here, but Rob Kowalski used to be the poster boy for sexual purity. Before that, I was a notorious man whore. And now I'm one of the leading advocates for biblical marriage, including polygyny, probably in the world right now. So excited to be here.
All right. So can you break down exactly what polygyny is? Because I asked you before this show, why do you pronounce it that way?
Yeah. So most people have heard of the term polygamy, and that's a broad umbrella term. Polygyny is underneath of polygamy, but polygyny means a man that having multiple wives. So it's very specific. Polyandry is a woman having multiple husbands. Both of those are polygamy. Again, it's an umbrella term, but polygyny is a man having multiple wives, which...
AKA, we don't want the polyamory. We don't want the polygamy. We want polygyny.
Yes.
So let's start correcting how we... Let's start correcting how we saying it. Polygyny, right, Rob? That's what we at. Polygyny, fellas. Let's get it right. When we getting into these debates with these women and their feelings about how it's not cool to have multiple wives, they don't want us to be happy. That's clearly what it is.
All right, Rob, since you're on the show, right, moving right along into more pressing issues, why are you so open to polygyny?
Why am I open to it? I think most men are open to it. I think men are wired for variety. I think God did it by design.
Okay.
I don't think it's a flaw. I think it's a feature that God gave men. Just like a woman wants, women are hypergamous. Have you heard that term?
Mm-hmm.
Women want their best, option. They want to choose the best man, and that's because of biology. They only can make one baby a year, so they want a guy that's got some resources and is strong and healthy and can protect them and provide for them. But men, how many sperm do we make a year? Millions of sperm. So for us, we are actually wired for variety. And the problem is when you force men into this monogamy only box, then that desire for variety just comes out sideways, and it comes out as like degeneracy. And then you got like Epstein and Diddy and all these crazy things.
Oh my God.
Jeffrey.
You got people cheating and lying, and it's like, you got all these Facebook groups. Are we dating the same man? Every city's got one of these.
That's the T app.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And it all started, with this monogamy only BS, which is not biblical, didn't come from God, didn't come from God's people. You've been lied to, and it's the biggest deception in Christianity, if not the world.
You think, honestly, and we're being straightforward here, you think having multiple wives would stop men from cheating?
Well, here's the thing. I think a righteous man would choose the righteous path if he was given one.
Okay.
Right? If he's ethical, he would choose. But right now, there is no ethical path. So the only path is unethical, right?
Okay.
I mean, if so, the guy that got caught, the CEO at that Coldplay concert, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he wouldn't have cheated on his wife if he was able to marry the second. Maybe he wouldn't have. Maybe he could have just came home and said, "Hey, honey, I'm going to bring home a second." The thing is this is what is messed up about cheating is
another prospect.
The first one benefits not at all, right? She gets lied to. The guy's sneaking around, splitting his time.
Right.
Versus if I marry a second wife, and I only have one right now, but if I was to marry a second, I'm going to introduce her to my wife. I'm going to see, do they get along? Is she complimenting our family vision? Is just maybe she can take care of the kids, or maybe she's good with money and she can help in some way that my wife actually benefits from having this woman under the same roof versus just getting, scraps from me and then possibly even getting left.
Right.
Because monogamy only is like a two-seater. You're driving down the highway with your wife and you see this baddie on the side of the road and she's hitchhiking and you pull over and your wife's like, "What are you doing? Where's she going to sit? There's no room for her." Polygyny's like a freaking econo van. She can get in the back. There's room for her too. And when you see like so many women are out there looking for a good, godly man, and there are a shortage of them. I mean, people say, well, if polygyny was the way it was supposed to be, why are men and women born on a one-to-one basis? But I would say, first off, that's not true. There's something like 90 to 95 men for every 100 women on average in countries. But what percentage of those men are actually willing and capable of marriage? Because when you factor in things like men are homeless at a higher rate, we're incarcerated at a much higher rate, we die younger, many of them are homosexual, many of them are just selfish and they ain't going to sign up to take care of a woman. They'd rather just fornicate. So you whittle it down, and now you got maybe 20 or 30 good, godly, capable men that could actually lead a woman well, and you got for every 100 women. And we lay on monogamy only, and you tell the most capable men you can only have one. And it creates a shit ton of problems. So
you used the word forced, and it stuck with me when you said that you force these men into monogamy. But isn't monogamy, relationship, marriages, isn't it a choice anyway? Like, you choose to be with this woman. No one made you be with her.
Well, you can't legally through the state. You can't marry more than one, right? It's illegal. They'll arrest you for bigamy. So on some level, you are kind of forced. And I know it now just from talking about this. You're certainly punished, like, culturally. Like, you'll get people
for sure
look down on you. I got excommunicated from my church because I talked about it, publicly. Martin Luther, exactly. Martin Luther was a proponent of this, and that guy knew the Bible well. So, like, they do kind of force you into it. Now, yeah, you don't have to marry, I guess. And I'm not a proponent of state marriage, to be honest, unless it's an absolute necessity. Why would I invite the state into my relationship? Because you give them a lot of power.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
Men get wrecked in family court laws oftentimes. So I think if you make a covenant at a church, in God's sight, you're married. In the Bible, actually, sex was marriage. If you sleep with her, you're married.
Some
of y'all married a lot of people.
There's a lot of marriages going on.
You take a virgin, she's yours. Now think about that. It was a hindrance, because right now, men don't take responsibility for their actions. We'll sleep with the virgin and we'll just, see you later, right? Like, versus if I knew I had to marry her if I sleep with her, now I'm going to think about it, because I got to actually take care of her for life now.
Right.
Am I going to sleep with more virgins or less? A lot less. So it was really a way to protect women. But yeah, going back to your question, I do think we're forced in a certain way, but nobody actually has to marry. And again, I don't believe that you should get married through the state unless you have to. So
okay.
But
I was just gonna say, like, that's an interesting point that you brought up about the state and their position on it. You know what I mean? Because if you do, speaking just from your standpoint, I think when you're nation building and you have more like sturdy groups of people like that can go and invest, because we have multiple incomes. You can invest here. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It starts to threaten nationhood.
No doubt. That's why I believe that they pushed monogamy only, because imagine if you got a man, he's got 4 or 5 wives, and each of those women have 4 or 5 kids. So he's got 20 kids.
That nation is going to grow fast.
He's got 10 boys. Okay, Jesus, I've seen a guy at a biblical families retreat, and he had 10 teenage boys, and they were, stacked a little bit. And I'm like, a man like that is not easy to control. Imagine if you had thousands of families like that.
Right.
Yeah. You think they're going to be able to tax you to death?
Yeah.
You think they're going to be able to push you around and pass these bullshit laws? Yeah. No, because you'll fight and you'll overthrow the government. So, but now you take a man, they put him in monogamy only. He's got 2.1 kids. His 50% divorce rate. He's been ran through, that ringer, and he's just a shell of himself. He can't fight. So, very easy to control those men. So, it's probably about control. But if you look back to nation building, people say, well, polygyny is chaos. I'm like, look back to ancient Israel. They went from a single man to over 2.4 million people in just 430 years. That's the power of polygyny. One man to over 2 million, and they overthrew Egypt, and it was the greatest country in the world at the time. That's the power of it. It is nation building. People say, oh, you're better need a lot of money. Better have a lot of money if you're gonna practice polygyny. I'm like, have you ever read the chapter Proverbs 31 in the Bible? It talks about what a godly woman's like. That woman was a hustler. She wasn't sitting on her ass letting that man do everything. No, she was out. She was up early. She was like making clothes for the kids. She had some side hustles. That's the way it should be. I mean, I've interviewed multiple polygynists on my podcast, and they talk about how much easier it is because many hands make light work. Monogamy only is expensive. Monogamy only is hard because you got now in America. I'm sorry, I'm on a rant here.
No, we're listening.
In America, you got most households. Both parents have to work in order to make the bills. Yeah. So now you got to ship your kids off to daycare and then public schools, and you don't know what the hell they're getting taught in there. So you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off. And imagine. I used to say, before I even knew polygyny, I used to say, I'll never get married until I'm rich enough to afford a nanny.
Right.
Because I always saw my friends that had kids and they could never do anything anymore. They were like, let me see if we can get a sitter. And I was like, I don't want that. I want to be able to still go on dates with my wife and have some kind of life. And, but imagine how much easier it would be to have a second or a third wife around that could help with the housework. Maybe she every third night she makes dinner, and so your first wife doesn't have to cook every night, or take care of the kids. But again, I believe that women are helpmates. God gave us
servants, but okay.
Well, you can call it that if you want. But look, man gets the mission from God. He gets a God-given mission, and then God gives. This is how it was in the garden. Adam and Eve. Okay, Eve wasn't created at the same time. I don't know. A lot of people don't know that. Adam got a job. He didn't get a woman first. He got a job. He said, "Name the garden, take care of the animals." Once he was on his mission, he was doing it. Then God gave him a helper. Okay, so that's the way it should be. So God gives you a mission as a man. You get after it, and then God gives you a helper. Now, maybe the first helper, she's good at X, Y, and Z. But now you're like, man, what I could really use is somebody that was good with the finances,
right?
To help with. And now, so maybe 4 helpmates will help you get to that goal a little bit faster, or give you a higher chance of success. I think God is pleased with that. We're not talking about fornication. People often confuse polygyny with, lust. No, if it was about lust, I wouldn't marry any of them. I could go bang dozens or hundreds, and it's so easy because I don't have to talk to you tomorrow. I don't have to, carry your groceries in or do anything for you. I could just have sex with you. That's why most of the people in the church are fornicating, because it's easy.
Yeah.
Why the hell would I marry 3 of them? That's hard.
But it is a benefit, though.
Well,
you have to admit.
There is a benefit. There's a benefit, and this is why I say men were wired for variety, because in the same way that women are and men are wired to reproduce. Look, a kid is going to be a lot of work, right? Mm-hmm. But still, women want to have the kid, right? Even though it's going to be a lot of work, you still have this desire. Men, we're wired for variety. Now, look. It is going to be a lot of extra work to have more than one wife, which is why a lot of men don't do it, because they realize, you know what?
That's a fact.
It's really more for the women than it is. The fornication is for the men, right? Because it's easy. We get off, we go home, done. But taking care of multiple women, being there emotionally for them, alone is it's a lot of work, which is why a lot of guys will say, "Well, this is actually, do I really?" They'll think it through. Well, I'm not saying anybody should practice polygyny. I'm saying it should be on the table, though, because when you remove it as an option, what happens is you get men scared to commit. So what we do is we'll sleep with girls and we'll drag it along. We'll slow play it. We maybe won't propose. For me, I did an endless catch and repeat. I would sleep with this girl, and I'd be like, I just could not get my mind around one for the rest of my life. So I would date her for a while, and then I'd throw her back, and I'd be like, I think there may be a better one out there. I'm going to wait a little longer. So I don't want to settle. And this is what the average age of men getting married, I think, is in the 30s, because FOMO. They're scared. Versus, because you tell them they can only have one for their whole life, and it's like, whoa, it's too big of a decision. I would have married my first girlfriend if I would have known that polygyny was, on the table. I would have married when I was probably 18 years old.
Because then you could have kept adding after that.
I could have kept adding, right?
No, this is crazy.
Now,
let me before you get right. Let me ask you a question. Right, this sounds amazing, right? I'm not about to sit here and act like any of this sounds bad, and I've preach some of this. Me and Quay, we've had these conversations. You've heard me say it's about the nation building and all that. But the modern society we live in now, we're talking, let's break it down to the numbers you said, 23 men to 100 women.
Yeah.
100 women are head cases. Yeah. They're not all.
They're not all.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So we're talking even if we're allowed to have multiple, I don't think it would be smooth sailing. So then you have these 23 guys who are wired for variety and would want to date. You want a nation build.
Sure.
But I'm choosing between 100 headaches versus 100 American.
True.
You might have to go to Venezuela.
I don't, maybe, but
were they drugging you and raping you? Wow, that's even better.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy. But I'm saying it's like with the way women are wired now, I don't know what type of woman.
Well, that's a good point.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so where's this type of woman that polygyny would be okay with? Because from my anecdotal experience, from what I see, I don't see him.
Man, forget that. What is your type?
Well, I mean, I like, lots of different types of women, but for me, to go back to your point, people say to me, they're like, well, you talk all this, why don't you have a second wife? I'm like, okay, again, if I commit to a woman, I'm committing for life. This is what I told my wife. This is the beauty of polygyny. I said, I'm never going to divorce you and I'm never going to cheat on you. Imagine the security that a woman has when they hear that. The only way I'll ever divorce my wife is if she's unfaithful. That's the only way I'll ever divorce her. She ain't got to worry about me meeting a little young hottie down the road and me dropping her ass on the side of the road. It won't happen, right? And again, I'm not going to just bring in some woman that's chaotic. I don't want to invite chaos into my home. Yeah. Again, this is a lifelong commitment. It's not a side chick. It's not a mistress. It's a wife. Okay, so I'm going to think it through. I'm going to pray about it. I'm going to let my wife advise me, and then I'll make a very careful, calculated decision if I ever decide to do it. But, if a woman doesn't check all the boxes, polygyny just makes it a lot more likely that they get covered. The Bible says the head of every man is God. The head of every woman is man. So if the head of every woman is man, what happens to all the women that don't have a head? They don't have a man to cover them because there ain't enough good ones that are willing and capable of marriage. So what happens is 80% of women that don't have children never intended to not. That's so sad. Now you got all this bullshit. They're freezing their eggs. Like this is the result of monogamy only. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Women, when they're the most fertile in their late teens and early 20s, and what do? We give them birth control and ship them off to college. It's the craziest thing. No, they should get married, and the men would be more likely to wife them if you didn't push them into this little cage called monogamy only that did not come from God, did not come from God's people. God's people were clearly polygynous. All you got to do is read the Bible. You see the men that were the closest to God in all of human history had multiple wives. God even said to David, I gave you your wives, and I would have given you more if you asked. So ask yourself, how is that possible when the shit they told you in church that polygyny is a sin? God would not give us sin. He would not. He wouldn't be God. Right? He cannot give us sin and violate his own moral standards. So it's a lie, and it came from Rome. Because when you think about Christianity, it's spread. The first converts were Jewish, but after that, most of them weren't. They were like Romans and Greeks and all these different, pagan nations. Rome believed in monogamy only. Again, going back to control. You could only have one wife. Yet they're all sleeping with boys on the side, and they had mistresses and all prostitutes. So it was very degenerate, kind of like America is now, right? So monogamy came from this term romantic, one man, one woman, came from Rome, did not come from God, which is why you got you got to go back to the person that set all this in motion, the being, God. He knows how he wired men and women. If he regulates polygyny, which he does clearly in the Bible, Exodus 21:10. If a man takes on an additional wife, he must not deny the first food, clothing, and conjugal rights. He regulated this. He doesn't regulate sin. There's no verse that says when you steal, steal like this. No, it says don't steal. Right? So no verse says don't have multiple wives. It says when you do, you have to do it like this. So we got to get back to the basics, and then everything would start to work itself out. You got a population collapse happening right now. I mean, we're getting outbred badly by the Muslims, like Christians. And yet, mainstream Christians will still hold on to that monogamy only, even as the ship is clearly sinking in front of us. Yeah. So, that's why I'm here. I'm super passionate about exposing it, man. I wish somebody would have told me this, which is, I had so many options in my 20s, 30s, 40s, and I was like Neo in the Matrix, dodging bullets, just trying not to, sleep with any of them, waiting for this unicorn. There's got to be one out there that's going to make this thing make sense. I just kept I never even questioned it. So never once did I hear anybody mention polygyny and Christianity in the same breath. If I had, I certainly would have researched it, and that's all I'm challenging people to do is don't believe anything I'm saying. Look into it for yourself.
So I think it takes a specific type of woman. That's why when I cut off Big Rob, that's why I asked what was your type like that. Because I think it's a specific type of woman that wants to be polygamist. And what is your type of woman that is going to be polygamous with you?
Right. Well, so my first conversation with my wife was about this. So I posted a vlog on Instagram, and she responded to it, sent me a message and said, I have a story about that. And so I could automatically tell she didn't hate it, right? But she's still, at the same time, most women aren't going to be all enthusiastic about, bring home competition for me. Like they're not. They're going to push back on it and they're going to feel jealousy and, I'm not enough. And they're going to have to wrestle with some of those things. And I'm not saying that they're not legitimate feelings. But this is what you have to look at is under monogamy only, the divorce rate is 50%. So women say they would only want monogamy. I don't want anything. Most women say, I don't want anything but monogamy. But yet when they get it, 80% of the time they fall for the divorce. And the divorce rates are sky high, 50%. So the women, it's almost like they get bored in a monogamy only relationship. It's almost as if God knew what he was talking about, which is why I say polygyny needs to be on the table. Doesn't need to necessarily happen. But when you say, listen, this is my right, you're going to be faithful to me. I may or may not have additional wives. That automatically puts everything in the proper order according to the Bible. God, man, woman, children. Monogamy only goes, boop, now we're equals. I can't have anybody, but you can't either. But that's not what God said. Because there is a chain of command, which is, again, why you got a sky-high divorce rate, because there's no polarity. When you got a man and woman and, you're basically equals, there's no polarity, so they don't stick together like a magnet. When you got a really masculine man and a really feminine woman, relationship's good, man. Like, that helps you stick. And that's what I think polygyny does is it needs to be on the table, but most men won't have that conversation with their women because they're afraid that she'll leave.
Right, but that's still not really answering the type of woman that you, like, how do you know, like, what do you look for in a woman to know that she's willing to be polygamous? Like, is there a type?
Well, I would have the conversation early and she would either stick or she wouldn't.
Initially, I don't think the conversation would go well initially because, like you said, the jealousy thing and whatever. Yeah. But are you convincing her to be polygamous, or is this something that she automatically wants to do?
Well, no. Most of the time I said I don't think they're automatically going to want. Now, some women will. Some smart women will be like, "Hey, this ain't a bad deal for me, actually," right? Like they're getting extra help. So a lot of times, men have a higher sexual appetite. There's a lot of reasons why they might, but normally, I'll give you that. More normally, they're not going to want to share that man's attention and resources with another woman. Mm-hmm. So you have to educate them. You have to, especially if they're a Christian, you got to go back to the Word and you got to say, listen, I know you've been indoctrinated to believe this is a sin, but let's actually go back and see what the Bible says. It doesn't say it's a sin. And then, educate them. The harder thing to do is to bring it up if you're already married. And there's guys in my program that have walked that, and that's much harder because you've made vows to forsake all others, and now you realize that it's not a sin, and you're like, hold on, this is my birthright as a man. And now you got to talk to your wife about it. The last thing I would ever want anybody to do is blow up their family. Like, God hates divorce, and you got to walk that line very carefully. But I think to answer your question, I think the biggest thing you need a woman that is somewhat submissive. Right? Okay. She's going to have to be somewhat submissive and let that man lead or else. So there's a guy, Jane Barrett. He had him on my podcast. Black guy, 6 wives, got like 14 kids. They're all under the same roof. Next Gen Barrett is his Instagram. He puts out some good content. And every one of them threatened to leave. Every one of them called it off at some point. I don't want this. I'm out. I'm done. He's like, all right. He just held frame. He knew what he wanted. This is what I'm going to do. And then 3 days later, phone's ringing. Okay, let's work. And eventually they came around. Now they're all best friends. So like this is going to sound sexist, but the worst thing you can ask a woman is like, what do you want? I don't think they often know what they want.
So look, check me out, right?
They think they know what they want, but do they really?
Right. And honestly, I feel like we all struggle with that a little bit?
We do.
Like I'm talking spiritually though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like knowing the wants versus the needs.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But how do you think that, or not think, how are you received by the Christian community at large?
Oh, not well.
Not well.
No, they.
So what do they say? Like, what
heretic? You're not a Christian. You know,
heretic is crazy.
What is this?
That is crazy.
Roman?
Heretic is crazy.
Stone him.
crucify him.
Like, heretic is crazy.
Well, this is the thing. They've tied monogamy only so tightly to Christianity itself. When you step back for it, what does one thing have to do with the other? You're talking about a marriage structure versus my belief that Jesus is the Messiah. One thing has absolutely zero to do with the other. But the way I look at it is it's a compliment because, look, Jesus was accused of being a heretic. Paul was accused of being a heretic. All the disciples. Anytime God gives somebody an unpopular message, they're going to be accused of being, a false prophet or a heretic or whatever they want to call you. But
Yeah,
again,
change doesn't come without pushback, basically.
yeah, exactly.
I get
Yes, but it's not been well. But look, I heard Kirk Franklin the other day on a podcast with Tyrese.
Oh shit, not Kirk. Not Tyrese.
But Kirk was questioning polygyny. He goes, "I want to know about this." He goes,
I did
and
see that.
He's like,
Yeah.
"This is a new conversation we haven't heard." And I was like, "Yes, at least we're having the conversation."
Right.
Because again, I'd never heard one person talk about this in 23 years of being a Christian.
Yeah.
And now at least they're starting to talk about it. And that's how the lie will be exposed is you got to shine light on it. And it's starting. So
Neo's doing it. He has four girlfriends. I don't know if they're
Neo.
Neo. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Neo.
Yeah, I see that.
He has
Yeah.
4 girlfriends.
My first pastor did too.
You see, well,
Not
that's
the
crazy.
pastor. Oh.
He had described it. He said,
we're not talking about that though.
nah. He said that each of them provide him something different. And again, I think Neo's situation is unique. And what I was trying to ask you earlier, like, again, even we're going to run into a lot of women that quote unquote don't fit the program, but it's hard enough with just one.
Yeah.
And even the gentleman you just mentioned, he went through all of these women going through it. Yeah, he stood. It takes a lot to stay sturdy in that spot.
Yeah.
And this is not this day and age ain't really built for that. That's how I'm looking at it. I think these women aren't really built for that. Maybe the next group, maybe the next batch, and a new generation might be, but I don't think these group of women are built for polygyny whatsoever. I think monogamy makes more sense for them, and it's less headache for the man because, like you said, who wants to sit there and have this when you wake up and realize, damn, I want 2-3 wives, but I have my one wife that I love, and it's like, I don't know how I'm gonna be able to explain this to her.
Right.
And you know how men operate. Men are living that for the rest of their lives and die.
Yeah.
Die a peaceful death, knowing the whole time they wanted a second, third, or fourth wife. You get what I'm saying? Like now, so to me, I'm asking you, in these groups, 100 women, like, how would you navigate it now? Like in this day and age?
Well, they all need a covering, is what I believe.
Okay.
I think the
Like
Bible's.
a Hajib?
Well, no. Like, I mean, they need.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
They need
I
a man to
didn't take
love
it literal,
them,
but that's
protect
funny.
them, correct them. I think
it's hard.
I know it's
man.
the
It
Bible's.
sounds more like you're training a dog.
Well, the Bible's basically a woman is supposed to be under man's authority for her life. So first it's her father,
Right.
and then it's her husband. He goes to the father and he asks, for permission to marry her. Back in the day, they would even pay a bride price. They would be like, okay, here's a year's worth of my salary, Dad. I want to marry your wife. Now, listen, do you think
give
that
me a
man that
common
just paid
tractor.
$50,000 for that woman is going to divorce her so quickly?
Hell no.
Probably not. That's an investment he made. The more you pay, the longer you stay. So now I'm not saying that we should go back to that necessarily. but the
they're
thing
not
is
submissive like that no more, Rob. They're not.
Well, that again, if they're not submissive, then that's a deal breaker.
Already disqualified.
But at the end of the day, look, would polygyny make it more likely that the women that didn't check all the boxes, because there are women that have a past,
Right.
but maybe they're repentant. Maybe they're like, okay, they were out in the streets, but now they're like, you know what? I don't want to live that way. Maybe they got a couple kids. Maybe she's widowed. This is what I say often: is if God one day, maybe God gives you a dream, Rob, and He says, Rob, I want you to marry that widow across the street with 3 kids. Now you go, God, let me just ask my wife first. You think He would be pleased with you? No, He wants you to listen to Him.
Nobody
You go
would
to
be
your wife
pleased
and you
with
say, God told me to marry the widow across the street with 3 kids, and I'm going to do it. You don't ask your wife's permission, right?
Damn.
Now I know. Now,
Right.
But I'm saying if it was that clear, okay. But my point is if polygyny just makes it more likely that all the women are going to find a covering because, again, a man, if he thinks he only gets one of anything for the rest of your life, you're going to be really careful with what you pick.
Right, that's a fact.
Right?
That's a fact.
Versus you tell if I know I could have 5, I might marry the widow across the street. There was a guy at a retreat I went to, and it was the woman's friend. She had 8 kids. 6 of them were small in the house. The man died, and she was a widow.
Oof.
And he was up there with his wife of 20 or 30 plus years, and he had kind of fallen in love with the friend.
Christ, okay.
He still loved his wife very much.
Right.
Yeah.
But he was talking about he was going to marry this woman with 8 kids. I said, who in the hell is going to marry her if he doesn't? You think there's going to be a man that believes in monogamy only?
That's married with 8 kids. No, hell no.
6 small kids.
And that's what I'm saying. The men are part of this problem too, in that sense. That we're not picking the woman with multiple kids, and we're not.
We might though. We might under polygyny.
We might, but we're not. That's not the first on the list. Like she's there. She's an option.
But she will be. The reason why I would have to disagree is because based off of what I'm hearing, he wants a submissive woman, right?
Yes.
And if a woman has 8 children, she doesn't really have that many options. So she is going to be preyed upon by these men who do want polygamy.
He's my dad, yo. And look, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because look, you see what she just said? He already convinced. Like, look,
No, but it's the truth. That was
single moms for Rob.
But it's the truth. That's what he's saying, right?
It sounds like desperate.
Right. So that's what. All right. I'm not calling them desperate, but essentially that's what you become when you're by yourself and you don't have anyone there. So you're like, all right, well, this man is offering me a lifestyle with my kids, but that's like the type of last resort type of shit where it's like, oh, well, I'm doomed. My husband's dead or I'm pregnant, whatever. I have all these fucking kids. I might as well go with this man.
Let me join the Millers.
Yeah, they're like, let me just have a fucking sister wife and like get it over with. I don't necessarily agree with polygamy. And I'm gonna tell you why I don't agree with polygamy, Mr. Rob. I don't agree with polygamy because yes, the Bible does talk about polygamous relationships, but polygamy was never talked about in a very positive light. It was always very negative in the Bible. It wasn't condemned. It wasn't a sin because it does not say that it's a sin, but there were consequences for these men like Abraham, Jacob, Solomon. Solomon actually strayed away from God.
Yeah, like 700 of them.
He had all these wives and these children because he had this power and he felt like the man. So now he's straying away from God. So he can't be a godly man with multiple wives he just can't be a godly man. And he was a sinner.
Well,
because he strayed away from God, right? Aren't you a sinner when you stray away from the Lord?
But Solomon's issue wasn't quantity; it was quality.
Yeah,
he chose strange wives. It says he married pagan wives that led his heart away from God. If he would have married a bunch of Israelite women, no problem, because they all worshiped the same God. It wasn't quantity; it was quality. Now, going back to these other men you mentioned, that's a common myth that they tell you in church. But there's numerous. Moses had multiple wives. Okay, what's the problem with him? Doesn't say anything. The only problem that he had is when Aaron criticized that he married an Ethiopian woman, she got leprosy, right? Because God was like, "You're talking shit about my messenger." Boom, So there was nothing. Joash, Josiah. There's multiple people in the Bible that doesn't say anything negative that happened. Now I would go back to say, how did the story of Adam and Eve work out?
How did it work out?
They destroyed the world under monogamy. Do you blame monogamy?
No.
Right?
I blame them for their choices.
One of their sons murdered the other one. Do you blame monogamy? No. So you can't blame a relationship structure, a structure for all the problems that a person had, which is it's a typical church cop-out. Look, Adam and Eve destroyed the world when there's just one of each of them. We don't go, oh, monogamy's evil. No, that's a childish argument. Look, plenty of people in the Bible had multiple wives. It doesn't say that anything negative happened, but even with the people that did have something negative happen, we can't attribute it to the relationship structure. I just think it's an immature argument that the church tries to make.
Because think about it, the relationships, right? It's supposed to be a union. Christianity preaches heavily on a union.
One flesh.
Yeah. So once you're two, but you become one. Mm-hmm. So
that's a good one.
It's all right. It's not a sin. No, it's not a sin. But there are a lot of negatives that do come from polygamy. For example, when you have someone straying away from the Lord, that's a sin, yes or no?
Yeah, but I don't think we can blame it on
There's no
polygyny.
but. It's yes or no.
But hold on,
Is it
it's
a
a
sin?
false equivalency. You're saying
no, but it's a sin still.
But what's that have to do with polygyny?
Because he was with these estrayed women that you're saying he strayed away from the Lord.
David had 18 wives, and he was called a man after God's own heart.
Okay, and what about Abraham? What do you have to say about him?
I mean,
Abraham had conflict within all his wives.
The most blessed family in the history of the world was a polygynous family.
Who, Abraham? With all the drama that he had with all his wives, with his 3 wives?
Look, he's the father of all the faiths. He's the most blessed that was the most blessed family in the history of the world, and it was a polygynous relationship. Now, did they have problems? Do you think an average family with a 50% divorce rate that got married under monogamy only had problems? Yeah, because the whole relationship crashed and burned. The family got literally torn apart. Was there problems? Yeah. Do you blame monogamy? I kind of do. I blame monogamy only. I think it had a big part to play in it, but I don't think we can look at every problem and go, oh, it's the result of polygyny. Look, monogamy only is a freaking shit show. It's an unmitigated disaster. Just open your door and look outside. I could close my eyes and throw a rock and hit somebody whose whole life was destroyed under monogamy only.
But if there's disaster with 2 people, imagine if you're adding more people to that. It's going to be more catastrophic disasters.
You can't use napkin math to kind
of. That's not napkin math.
It is. It's like,
not.
Well, hold on. If 1 plus 1.
It's 4. It's how many of us are in here right now? It's 4, right?
Napkin math.
Napkin math is crazy. That might be the episode.
Napkin math.
I like that.
So how many motherfuckers is it in here right now?
All right. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. But anyway, I'm going to move on from that. When it comes to children, right? Yeah. You say that, you build this nation, this foundation with your children, blah, 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 all that good jazz. It sounds good in theory, but a lot of kids that come from polygamous relationships end up having more mental health issues than kids who come from monogamous relationships because they're more neglected from the father.
Well, I would say I'd like to see that study, because I think studies can be manipulated, right? There's definitely, if this is the narrative that they want to push, they can fudge things and make it sound however they want. But I've heard people say, well, kids that were raised in a home with not their biological mother, for example, or a biological parent, are more at risk of being sexually abused or something. I'm like, so you're basically saying it would be better for a child to be fatherless than to have a stepfather? Because I think that's a hard argument to make, right? Because kids that are raised without fathers do terrible. That's a fact. 80% of people incarcerated come from only 30% of fatherless homes. So, like, it's a very clear correlation between the two. So, I think you would get a lot more fathers in homes, because, again, how often does a man marry his high school sweetheart when he's 25 years old? They have 3 kids, and when he hits 45, he hits a midlife crisis, and he runs off with another 25-year-olds and abandons his family. That happens all the time. It wouldn't have to happen, like under polygyny. And I think it won't stop happening until this is normalized, because
polygyny would stop. You honestly?
I think it would slow it down. I think it would. I don't think it would completely get rid of it, because you're still going to have unrighteous people and people again that are lazy. It is easier to not. It's easier to just fornicate and lie and just not have to provide for any additionals. But that wasn't God's way of doing it. This was God. I believe that polygyny was God's social welfare system. He wanted to make sure that every woman had a godly husband if she wanted one. Monogamy only is man's way, is our way, humanity's way of making sure that every man has a wife. It's literally the reverse of God's way. Polygyny makes sure that every woman has a husband. Monogamy only makes sure that every man has a wife. It's like sexual socialism. You get one, you only get one. Like, look, why wouldn't we let the market determine? Why wouldn't we let a woman, if Neo's wives decide that 4 of them want to marry him, why would we stop them? Are we really? That sounds very misogynistic to me. You're basically saying women don't know how to choose. They don't know what's best for themselves. Let us tell them what's best for them. What? No. Anytime you try to control, you gotta let the market determine its own outcomes. If you try to control it, bad shit's always going to happen.
I just want to say one thing. The Robs be cooking. You feel me? Between this Rob and that Rob, y'all Robs be cooking, boy.
No, I don't. Tell you. Yeah, listen, I don't disagree. I do. I got to give you a little pushback though, because we're in a monogamous society. I know it's not perfect. I don't think any society how polygamy, I don't think any of it's ever going to be perfect. Let's say we were in another universe where we're looking at polygamy as the thing, and they limit you to 3 wives each, 4 wives each, whatever the situation is. There's going to be tons of problems that come from polygyny, situations, like problems we're not even thinking about because this is not it's not a modern thing. It's not what we're doing. So again, when you're coming to the point where it's 3 women and now they are vying for your attention, and this one is not getting you as much as this one is, and you might like one more than another one, or she thinks because you two watch football together and you two watch The Walking Dead together, she doesn't watch anything with you. You guys just eat together. So it's like in that kind of circle, I can see the chaos of it. And it's the same thing when she was bringing up the kids. That, I think, is probably, in my opinion, the most dangerous thing about polygyny, the kids. As a father of 4, it's hard. It's already hard with 4 of them vying for my attention, and they need it, and I have to provide it.
Yeah.
So now I'm thinking, damn, like, it's like 13 motherfuckers in here that have my last name and look like me. I'm only me. And yes, the mothers are here. But as you said, as she said, as the statistics show, fathers are very important.
Yeah.
And I do think there's a lot of positives in polygyny, but we're not thinking about how stretched thin a man might be in this system.
I believe it.
And I think, we're not thinking about that because there's so many positives. And again, as men,
you're thinking about.
No, I'm saying like we didn't even mention sex for real. We didn't get there yet. But what I'm saying is, in the system where we're thinking about all these positives, there are these negatives that we can really like sit and talk about, because again, some men are stretched in now with one. Yeah. Some men are going through. We got to scream in the car before we get inside. It's an hour in the car before you. You know what I'm saying? These things are happening. So now, when you got to go home to 4 of them that have 3 kids each, and all 3 of those kids, daddy, daddy, daddy. It's like an army. It's like there's a point, I think, in this system where it'll stretch you a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And how would we combat that?
Well, I don't disagree. I think it's going to take a special man that can pull it off. I think the majority of men would practice monogamy, even if it was legalized, even if it was normalized, because it is extra work to take on 2, 3, 4. So I think most would practice monogamy, but the problem is when you don't even have it as an option.
You want the option.
I think it should be on the table, because I think men would not drag their feet. Like right now, again, if I sleep with a woman, we're married. That's the way I feel. Me and my wife waited till our wedding night. Any woman moving forward, so I'm not just out having sex with girls. I was abstinent for the majority of 2 decades, so like long time, and had plenty of options, but yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I think every relationship, whether you're celibate, you're going to have challenges. Very specific to that. Trust me, I did it. Right. It's not easy. If you're monogamous, you're going to have some specific challenges with monogamy. If you're polygynous, you're going to also have some very specific challenges. You're going to have challenges with all of them.
What, right.
There's positives and negatives to each. I'm not saying that one is necessarily better than another, but you can't remove the option. You can't. This is what happened. There were 3 doors. God says you can be celibate. And I think a lot of men, if polygyny was normalized, you get a lot of men that would have to be celibate, because they would get pushed out of the sexual marketplace. Because the only reason they got one is because they weren't the woman's first choice. She got her heart broke by that Chad, and then she went with the safe guy. So you're going to get a lot of guys that are celibate, and then you got monogamy, and then you had polygyny. But the church boarded up the 3rd door. They said, nope, can't go through that door. And then what the church people did, they banged a hole in a 4th door called fornication, which is what the majority of the singles in the church are doing. Let's be honest. Most of the people that are single in church are getting it in behind closed doors. Even the pastors are getting caught.
Yeah, with little boys.
My first pastor.
The priests are getting caught with little boys, but the pastors oftentimes are banging women in their congregations.
Right.
So like, it's a freaking mess. Okay, because we boarded up that 3rd door and we got all these negative repercussions because of it. We need to open that 3rd door back up, and I think a lot of the problems would take care of themselves. But I don't disagree that it ain't necessarily going to be easy. I think some things will be easier, some things will be harder.
So what makes you think that you're able to handle polygamy?
I mean, I've always known that I was wired for it, but I wouldn't let myself admit it because I thought it was a sin. So I would always just kind of do like you, Rob. Like, it's probably better. It's probably just looks better than it really is. It's probably chaotic. It wouldn't be good behind. I would try to dismiss it because I didn't want to let myself go there mentally that this is what I wanted. but then when I actually went back and studied it and I realized that it wasn't a sin, I was like, this is what I want.
Like, fuck it.
Now, will I actually practice it? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, again, I used to have a rotation of girls, but I wasn't married to them.
Right.
So I didn't have all that responsibility. They weren't under the same roof. I didn't have to be there for them to, emotionally, or, some of them that were my number ones, my main ones.
My number ones is insane.
Number one.
But my main one, you know what I mean? Like the main one you're there for, but like there were other girls that were just in the periphery and I don't know what was really happening in their life.
Do you have children?
No. Oh, well, one on the way. We haven't even announced that publicly yet. So,
oh yeah, shout out to the Crossing Minds bitches.
Crossing Minds exclusive. No, I mean, again, I see like your main point. You're not trying to get rid of monogamy.
Yeah.
Because I think when people hear what you're saying,
right,
the initial is like, oh, he's saying fuck monogamy and it's polyamorous everything, polygyny everything, fuck mad, and that's what it sounds like to someone who's not really listening. So you're just saying, open this door and leave it on the table for a man and a woman.
Yes.
Because you're not saying just a man. You're kind of saying you want them both to choose polygamy.
Who's that? Say that again.
The man and the woman to choose polygamy, or is it just the man choosing polygamy?
Well, the man, it ultimately is the man's decision. Like this is a woman gets to choose which man she submits to.
Right.
She's going to say, I'm going to follow. But once she follows that man, she's in. Right. And then it becomes the man's decision how he wants to lead that relationship. My wife is my number one advisor. I listen to what she tells me, but at the end of the day, I'm going to make the decision, and she's going to support that decision. So it's the same way with polygyny. If I decide to bring on an additional wife, she knew that from day one that could be a possibility.
It's not a surprise.
And there was a time where she was like, "I'm not sure if I want to marry you. Give me a week." Right. And I said. Take a week. I said, but I love you and I will marry you, but I'll also walk away from this. I want to let you know.
Right.
So you have to have good frame. You have to be fearless, not careless. She knew I loved her, but I was also fearless. I'll let you go because, this is where I think a lot of the problems came from is because men got scared of losing their wife. So they just submitted to them. They caved into their request, happy wife, happy life, and all this other crap that doesn't come from the Bible. Yeah, and now you got a mess because you got women that are checked out. A lot of cases, they dream of being a wife their whole life. Of walking down the aisle. Many women do dream of being a wife. They dream of their marriage their whole life, and then they finally reach the goal and they attain it, and then 80% of the time of all the divorces, they're the ones that file. So you can't tell me that something is not broken in that system.
Yeah, it's definitely something in the water that needs to be inspected.
Yes,
but I'm just gonna ask more of a spiritual question, right? Because I grew up Christian.
Yeah.
Like in church, grandma, mom, dad, eventually, you know what I mean? So one thing that I recognized, or that God said was a sin was lust, right?
Right.
So going into just the spiritual Christianity aspect of it, right? Now, I choose to be monogamous,
right.
You know what I mean? Because, one, a man has to be disciplined, right? So, I don't think, because once a door is open, you know what I'm saying? The air is coming in.
You cannot close the door. Yeah.
So, you feel me? I keep doors closed because if I open it, I'm like, how do you choose? The process of choosing wives, right? Because you said anyone that you have sex with would become your wife, right? So my thing is, all right, if I see my first woman who my high school sweetheart, right? Let's just say that's the first wife. Is the first woman that you ever met and loved. That's the first wife. The second wife might be somebody who is more on the level of what, you know what I mean? Maybe mentally, like you said, like she might be financially savvy. Okay. Somebody who helps you meet your goals, you know what I'm saying? Where it's like, all right, I met her on pure love, but now my man brain has kicked in.
You met this one on ambition. Yeah.
This would add into the so you know what I mean? Yeah. So all of those are, I mean, that's pure.
Right.
But I don't feel like that's how like the red pillars come. You know what I mean? Like I don't think the red pillars come like that. I think they say I can choose whatever woman I want.
Right. Yeah.
And is based off of sex. Yes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and honestly,
no spirit in it.
Yeah, it's not a lot of spirit in it. Yeah. That's why I like the fact that you do come from a Christian standpoint. But how would you control the lusty wind that's coming in the door?
Because that's difficult. Like he brings up a good point, because now we can talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm not about to sit here and say two of them.
If I see her, she look good, and she got a brain.
Like it's
what?
It's the woman you love.
Be careful.
Listen. This is why this pod works, because she understands. It's the woman I love.
Yes.
And the woman I like a lot and I lust for a little bit.
Yeah.
And they're both here servicing me.
Yes.
There's no way that a man's gonna be like, nah, we ain't thinking about that.
Right.
So it's like again, you know why Batman doesn't kill?
Invite lust.
Yeah, doesn't invite, because Batman. You know why Batman doesn't kill? Because if he kills once, he's gonna do it again.
Right. Okay.
So it's like, if you open this door,
Yeah.
how do you?
That's a good question.
You know what I'm saying? How do you stop yourself from
Yeah.
doing the Solomon?
Well,
catching the breeze
Yeah.
in a
And
cold,
all these nefarious
lusty
women.
wind.
So I talked to this guy that he had started seeing some of my posts. It was a guy I knew from the clubs, and he had I think it was his wife for like 15 years or something, but something happened where she basically, I don't know, she pushed him out of the house or something. It almost forced him, according to his story, kind of forced him in the hands of another woman. Okay, he met this other woman.
It's always like that.
Fell in love with her, and then they, kind of basically patched things up with his wife, but he was still in love with the other girl, and she, the wife started questioning him, and he's not the kind of person to lie. So he's like, listen, he told her, and she was threatening to leave, and he was like, he was basically in love with them both. And he said, dude, you know how I used to be, right? Because he was like a big man whore too.
Right.
And he said, I don't want anybody else. It was like whatever that was satisfied something in his ego or whatever. And I heard Andrew Tate talk about this on a podcast before, because he talks about like these, Russian oligarchs or whatever. And they have their wife, but then they have a couple mistresses, and they're not banging hundreds of girls. They have their few, and whatever it is in a man that satisfies, maybe it's something inside, an ego boost or whatever, but it kind of quells it, apparently. Now, I'm not saying it necessarily happens. I think you're still going to need discipline. I would also say you need discipline to be married to multiple wives. Maybe more discipline than a monogamy only is. Because, again, it's going to require a lot of extra effort to take on another human being. But to answer your point about lust, this is what's wild. Okay, the rabbit hole runs deep. So Jesus says, if you look at another woman with, what does it say? If you lust after another woman, you commit adultery in your heart, right? Basically, that's not what it said. Actually, it says if you look at if you covet another man's wife,
right? Okay.
Adultery. This is what's wild. People think adultery is if you cheat on your spouse. First off, adultery in the Bible always had to do with the marital status of the woman, never the man. You never see a man. First, adultery was a sin that was punishable by death, so it was a very serious sin. But it meant taking another man's wife. A woman could be an adulterer if she's married. A man can be an adulterer if he sleeps with another man's wife. But a married man sleeping with a single woman is not adultery. Never called adultery, never punished, never condemned in the Bible. Now, look, I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's right.
I'm telling you, there's so many.
I love him.
I think it's...
Nah, I don't. Go ahead,
But the modern woman wouldn't love anything he's saying. Let's cut
that's the problem.
They wouldn't love a thing you're saying, because all of it sounds like benefits for the man, benefits for the man. Even if we just spent...
No, there's benefits.
No, there's tons of benefits for the woman. Not you.
No, I'm saying, there are benefits for the woman. Like, I get it. Like, you would have Sharkeisha taking care of the kids. And you would have, your husband Samuel at work, and then you sitting here scissor bumping with
Scissor
Nicole.
bumping is crazy.
Like, it's just, I get it. Like, you have different options, but there's problems that come with it. Like, there's also the building aspect with the help and the village, and it takes a village and bullshit, blah 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 blah. Yeah. But it's just like,
that is a good thing. That's a good question too, V. Like, that just popped into my head when you were speaking, right? Like, on the funny side, do you have enough Johnson for all of these women? Like, do you have enough? Do you have enough?
That is a question I think men ain't. And
do you have enough dick for
you know what's funny? He kind of answered that. No, he kind of answered that. Like, it would kind of create a society where, if we think hypergamy is bad now, in a polygamy society,
his dick is going to be sore.
No, it's not even that. There's dudes that'll never see the inside of a vagina.
What?
Yeah.
No, because there's dudes that have enough dick for everybody.
Yes.
And they'll be the dudes that get the most women to marry
that
them.
makes sense. You don't want little Peter.
Right. But then there's dudes who will never have enough.
I'm talking about energy.
And they won't have enough. And when you don't have enough, like, you're not going to get chosen to be in this polygamy bubble. Like,
it's not even just the size. I don't think he's talking about it.
No, I get it. I'm
just saying.
I'm getting the stamina. Yeah.
Energy.
But you got to crack 6 women a day.
Not a day.
Well, you don't have to do it a day.
At that point, you're busting powder.
Funny enough, Cardi B said it. Cardi B was talking about Neil.
And Cardi B is knocked up by a man that's impregnated many other women at the same time, apparently.
That's a fact.
So this is what's wild.
Hey, Cardi,
women say they don't want polygyny, but 80%.
That Rob Cardi, not this one. I didn't say it.
80% of women are sleeping with 20% of the men right now.
That's hypergamy.
So polygyny is happening.
Already
it's just happening in a degenerate way because everybody's lying and sneaking around versus just come home and say, look, I'm thinking about marrying a second woman. I want to see if y'all get along. Women like to they like to talk to each other. They like to have girlfriends around. Like they're kind of built for it. But what happens under monogamy is they kind of turn you into their girlfriend. They want to talk your ear off. I don't want to talk all the time. I want to work. Like I don't want to sit here and chat. So.
Who the fuck is your dad?
Rob is his dad. He said, "Yo, my dad respect." You're not wrong. I mean, I'm hoping the modern woman is listening to what you're saying, and they're gonna be mad at you, Rob. And they're only gonna be mad because it kind of makes sense.
Yeah,
a lot of stuff you're saying is making sense.
Honestly, I think it's the same man. That's like, it's not two different men in a monogamous relationship versus a polygynous relationship. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it's the same type of man, right? Like, because if I'm a lusty, I'm trying to respect Christ, man, in the building. You feel me? But if I'm a lusty dude, like, you know what I mean? I'm gonna be lusty here or there, like, you know what I'm saying? But if I'm a disciplined man that could hold down my wife, right? Then, you know what I mean? When it comes to picking the other women, that's why I was saying, like, all right, somebody.
But shouldn't a wife pick the other women?
See, now you're trying to take the head.
No, I did have that. No, I did have that question.
Take the head. I'm the head.
No, we talked about. Me and her talked about this yesterday. I did have that question. Yeah. Would it be an issue if the wife was picking the women?
No, I actually think it's bibiblical for the. If you look at the many stories in the Bible, Jacob, it was Rachel brought her maidservant. Well, first it was Abraham. It was Abraham and Sarah. Sarah brought Hagar to Abraham, right. And then Jacob. They gave their maidservants, whatever their names were, Rachel and Leah. They brought their maidservants to him. So it actually is biblical for the woman to bring. Like, this is the way I think about it. Look, the Bible says, "Love your neighbor as you love yourself." Okay, so what would be a more Christ-like act if you had a girlfriend and you saw her out there in the wilderness and she's the dating scene is a fucking mess, right?
It's the wilderness.
It's the wilderness.
The wilderness.
And you saw a friend, and you're like, and you knew she wanted to have kids, or maybe she has a kid and he ain't got a parent, and you're like, and you got a good, righteous man. Why wouldn't you share her with him?
You know she said this? No, she said this. You said, girl, listen, they don't want a man like your man. They want your man.
It's true.
You said this. Like, you said this years ago.
It's true.
I always say
biology.
Oh, wow.
Chimpanzees. The female chimpanzees don't want the male chimpanzee. They want the male chimpanzee that has all the girls. This is a real thing. Women want what other women have, but under monogamy, the only way for him to do that is to leave one and then or cheat or leave one and take the other. Versus just say, listen, I can cover you all. I'll cover all four of you.
So you representing modern women, right? Let's because I want to ask you to speak for them almost. Why couldn't y'all share y'all men? You see the look she just gave me when I asked her that?
Why could I can't share you because it's you. I couldn't share you just off the simple strength that like I take you so serious.
Okay.
I think there's a level of you actually being extremely serious with a man that stops you from wanting to share. Like, I think if it's like a whatever type of man and you settled, I think you're more willing to bend and be a little bit more flexible with the stuff that he asks for. My opinion. If, like, I don't want to share you, but let's just say I was with somebody just to be with somebody. If he wanted to introduce another woman, sure, bitch, I'm not going to be with you forever. You do what you want to do.
But the thing is don't you think that sounds a little? Yeah, you're willing to give extra to a man that isn't even committed to you, versus a man he's committed, he's protecting, providing, he's in it to win it for a lifetime, and you're gonna give him less than you would give a man.
Because she doesn't want to lose. she don't want to lose that man because she sees the value
exactly
in him. So the territorialism comes from not wanting to lose the man.
Fear of loss.
Because you have friends, like women naturally have friends that you see are like legit struggling and going through the worst shit.
But it's not my job to be like, oh, come on over here. Like, that's not my fucking job.
But honestly, it would be wise
to tell her to come over here?
No.
Oh, okay.
It would be wise for, like, as a man, right? Because if we're gonna say like that first wife, I feel like is like that's the strongest bond and connection.
She's the queen.
You pushed me into this world. You're the queen, right?
Yes.
It would be wise to let that woman choose.
I think so.
It actually increases her value because like my wife said she's on board with it. I was like, I may not even do it. I don't even know. But the fact that she knows that it's my option and she's cool with it, that increased her value. Didn't lower it.
Yeah.
So I think.
I think my next question to you is like, you haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
Right. And okay, it's on the table.
Yeah.
Like, do you ever think like she just said it's on the table because it's something that you wanted to hear and you haven't really act on it?
No, she wouldn't leave. We both follow God, and she's not gonna, and it would have to get really bad if I, made a really bad choice and somehow, the whole thing blew up. I guess it's possible, but I don't foresee that now.
Okay. So why does it matter if it's on the table?
Because it just puts everything in order, Like the thing is like you said to him, I would never share you. First off, it's impossible for a man to be taken. Like he takes you, you're taken, but he's not taken. That's how it is biblically. Like there was something in the Bible called a jealousy test, and a man could give his wife a jealousy test. Basically, if you suspected she was unfaithful, you could do this jealousy test. There's no jealousy test for a man. A woman doesn't have the right to give a man a jealousy test. Why? Because he takes you. You don't take him. The problem is again, the system's all effed up because of this monogamy only, and it makes us like equals. And then the woman kind of feels like, almost like, if not his superior, at least his equal. So imagine if you put, how much respect would you lose for God if you knew we were equals? Or if you went to God and say, God, listen, I'm a Christian now, but you can only, I don't want you loving anybody else but me. And he goes, okay, Rob, I'll do that. You would lose respect for him. God's like, it's a polygynous relationship by nature. God's like, I can love everybody, and you don't get to say a damn word about it, Rob.
I don't think they heard.
Let me go to God. I'm going to be like, listen,
Which
God.
ironically, I'm the bride of Christ, the bride. Right? He's the husband, the groom. Even Jesus compared his second coming to a polygynous marriage. Did you ever read the parable of the 10 virgins? He says at that time, the second coming, he's talking about the second coming, will be like a man who's coming back for 10 virgins, 5 wise and 5 foolish. He was the groom, and he took 5 bitches into the marriage chamber with him.
Bitches.
Jesus was a polygynous. Do you think if it was a sin that he would have used that analogy? Hell no.
I wouldn't have.
Our whole relationship with God and Jesus is polygynous. It's a perfect picture of a polygynous marriage.
Yeah, I don't think they heard what you said, though. You said something that just hit me like in the back of the head, like I'm hurt. He said, if God came down and you found out you and God were equals, we wouldn't respect him.
Yes.
And that's bothering me a little bit. I didn't think that's bothering me a bit because you kind of hit it on the head, and it's like maybe that's why things are the way they are in these relationships where monogamy forces you to treat this person as your equal in the regular sense of it. And now these women, instead of being in their feminine selves, they come and meet you at your masculine.
You're right.
And now you know what I'm saying? Like that's what just hit me. That threw me for a loop because I'm like, damn, like that's a little deeper. I know you said it to be as deep as it was, but it hit me a little deeper than that because I'm like, yo, like they're looking at these men as equals and not looking at this man like, oh, even though he is, because you with him because he's taller than you, he's stronger than you, makes more money than you, can protect you and all that. So he's not really your equal, he's your protector.
Right.
And you need him to be this or else you won't be with him. But when you're with him, you bring yourself up to where he's at instead of staying in the feminine role. That doesn't mean you're under him. It just means he has to take the lead.
Because you're part of the same body, and the neck is very important.
The neck is very important.
You ever woke up with a crick in your neck?
You can't
No, but like, what do you mean that they bring themselves up to here? Because let's use our dynamic for an example.
Our dynamic's different.
But it doesn't matter. We're
because
you
sound no. The reason why it's harder is because you'll present as like masculine to these people. Like
that's okay. That's what I'm getting to.
But when we're together, you're not that.
Can I cook? Can I?
So how can we use ours?
Because that's what I'm saying. Like that's why I want you to explain to me that they're trying to match. Because yes, granted, like I could come off masculine and a dickhead to everybody else, but with you, I'm soft and I'm gentle.
As you should be.
So what do you mean that these women are trying to match the energy of the man?
You allow me to lead. You allow me to be a man. I don't have these issues where you submit to me. Anybody watching you will never think that. They'll be like, yo, she's crazy.
It doesn't matter what they think. Right. But I'm trying to understand
these other women will try to match these men. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Where you'll give me the respect and you're like, you know when to fall back, you know when to chill. Like they don't have that limiter. There's nothing stopping them from shut the fuck up.
Like are
that.
You sure that they're not presenting to be like that too? Like you know how people look at me like that with you. You don't think that women are doing that in their relationship, like presenting?
There's a lot of domestic violence going on, and I don't think it's because these women are staying feminine. I think they're I think they're trying to match these dudes. I've heard women say.
I mean, but it's the sassy man apocalypse right now.
That too, but it's a result of women being a little more manly that's turning these dudes into bitches. Yes. So it's like it's a disgusting domino. No, it is. It's a nasty domino effect, and it's coming from what he's saying with the if you saw I cannot be equal to God. I refuse to be equal to God. I can't.
Right.
Because if I'm looking at God as for what he is all. I'm not all.
So you're saying that we're supposed to look at our husbands in a godly way,
well,
like
the
as
Bible's
God?
Even Sarah says that she called Abraham Lord. Now, I'm not going to make my wife call me Lord. But it does say that the head of every man is God, the head of every woman is man. So, yes, I mean, I believe that, you can be taken, but he cannot. It's almost like if you had a kid, I was thinking about this, is you do have a kid, right? Four. Okay, but imagine you had one and then first said, no, you can have no other children but me. Okay. And you actually listened. Like that kid is putting himself as almost like in a parental role, right? He doesn't have the right to put demands on you and say, well wait a second. Why if you love me, am I not enough? Why do you need a second? Like, am I getting too old for you? Like, why do you need to have a young? Right? And then you actually listen. That kid would lose respect for you as a parent.
That's a fact.
But going back to what you said as far as the equal thing, I think at the root of it is it goes back to patriarchy. I know people hate that word now, but I think patriarchy is like you all seem like you have a patriarchal relationship. You let him lead. Patriarchy is possible without polygyny, right? But polygyny without patriarchy is impossible. Meaning, like, automatically, if you have polygyny on the table, you automatically have patriarchal. You can have it with monogamy. It's possible, but it's also possible to not have it. But with polygyny, it's guaranteed.
It's impossible.
It's impossible, and that would squash a lot of the problems, which I believe feminism is the root cause of. But which again is why it needs to always be part of the conversation, whether you practice it or not. I mean, that's up to you, but it should. Most men won't do it, not because of the problems.
Can't.
Well, it's fear.
Because they're sassy.
They say, well, this is what I love. Somebody said to me early on. They said, many men will say they're the head of their relationship, but you want to really find out if you're the head. Bring up polygyny. You'll find out real quick.
He just told me I'm not the head of my
relationship. You'll be like, no, you won't. You ain't bringing home no wife. Like, you'll find out real quick who's controlling the relationship.
I don't think that I kindly disagree with that. I'll say kindly. The reason, again, it's like I respect him, I value him, and it's just like, I know this might sound weird, but I married someone in the light of my father. Like, Rob is a provider, he protects, he does all these things. So it's like, why am I allowing another woman to benefit from that when I work so hard to get it? It's like when you work hard to go for a career, like you put sweat, tears, and time into that. Why would you let someone come in and knock your hustle and get in your spot? Like, this is my spot. I work to be here. Why am I sharing my spot? There's never two number ones.
Sharing is caring.
All right, guys. If you haven't already, make sure you follow us at the Cross and Mind Pod, all one word, on Instagram. Make sure you download and subscribe on Spotify, Apple, and
Instagram. You say Instagram, right? We have TikTok. We're TCMP on TikTok. We're on YouTube. You check us out everywhere. You just Google the Crossing Minds Pod. We'll pop up on everywhere you listen to podcasts, including iHeartRadio.
All right, guys. Wait a second. I was going to.
I thought you hit me with the all right, guys.
No.
I was just going to get my little.
Yeah, I was going to say, all right, guys. Do you have anything to say?
Guy, him, you know,
she scared me. She scared me. I'm sorry. I jumped.
That guy, Lord, excuse me.
That guy, Lord, is crazy.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Hey, yo, listen.
Oh, my.
If you upset, then you need to do a little bit of soul searching because you got to listen to what my pop just said.
Thank you, son.
That is crazy. All right. Rob, do you have anything else that you would like to add? How would you like to end the show? What do you want the people on the Cross and Minds pod to remember you as?
I mean, I just want them to look into this for themselves. Again, don't believe anything I said. Just research it for yourself. But it starts with going back to the Word, and most people won't do it. Most people are going to just believe whatever their pastor said, and they're never going to check into it. Don't be that lazy person. The Bible said the Bereans were of more noble character because they actually researched the scriptures every day to see if what Paul said was true. Be like a Berean. Go look for yourself. See if what I'm saying lines up with scripture. But then, yeah, check me out. If maybe this is resonating with you, go to manofoptions.com. We have a course and a community for men that are pursuing this or practicing it already. You know, it definitely isn't. You can't pursue it the same way you pursue monogamy only because we're not built in a world for people that have this belief. So we help you navigate that. So go to manofoptions.com and you can follow me on Instagram, Unplugged Christian, or go to my website, robbkowalski.com.
Wow, shout out to Robbie Rob, my boy. And as always, if you haven't already, you following us, tell a friend to tell a friend. Tell your friends that church people need a little what? Dick too.
That's her actual outro. He's
Dick too.
Dick.
Like church people need a little dick too. Yeah.
Sick.
Shout out to all the bagels. What did you call them? The bagels?
The bagels.
Be more like the people. What were they?
I don't know. Baltimoreans? What?
Baltimoreans.
Who's the people that you said be more like whatever when you were just giving your spiel?
Be more like
whatever.
Oh, the Bereans.
Be more like the Bereans.
The
I was about the burritos. The burrito tacos. Holla at your boy. Bye.
Take care, guys.
That was a
Big
perfect.
Rob.